We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me undies. We undies might have sounded differently, right?
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's the after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this, too. It's a real service to the community.
What a great organization and a show that offers hope, optimism, creative solutions, entertainment.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph. It's your gift to the universe, and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
Well, hello everybody. Hope you are well. It is 6 p.m. here in the motherland in South Africa. The wind is howling. The router is shaking. So I might seem shaky to you, but I can assure you when you have a guest like Andy Henriquez, you can't shake at all because he just puts you at ease. His warmth, his advice, his wisdom. We're going to have a great time today. Anna Bowman is excited for today. And Tom Morris says, happy Thursday, everyone. It really is a happy day. Why is it a happy day? Well, it is a happy day because today I saw a rainbow. I saw a rainbow. You know, in the rainbow nation, that is South Africa, I saw a rainbow at the waterfront and I had to take a photo of it. I will put some sunflowers in the background because that's how I feel as well. Got one more photo as well. There's the rainbow. I'm not sure if that means I'm the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or not. I did not find it, but I was happy nonetheless. I was also happy because, well, you know, today is National Beverage Day, and you might think that the beverage of choice is going to be red wine. Actually, you'd be right. Or you might think that the beverage of choice is, wait for it, Cantera Negra Tequila, the official, unofficial sponsor of the show. Cantera Negra Tequila taste is its own reward, but it's also Starbucks. I finally went to Starbucks. There's a Starbucks in Cape Town. Happy days to have to overpay for overpriced mediocre coffee. That is the power, my friends, of brands and branding. And I am not complaining. Well, let's get on with the show because we have a full episode of the show today for you. What an amazing week in South Africa on location. And we end on a high with Mr. Andy Henriquez, founder of the Master Storyteller Academy. But I also want to let you know, back in the USA, Joe Pine, Natalie Nixon, Ann Handley, and Bob Berg. What an incredible lineup next week. Nowhere as close to my guest tonight, but you know, they will do their best. Give them a chance to do their best. So back in CT, right, which is Connecticut, versus CT, which is Cape Town. Let's do birthdays. Mr. Michael Levine, Daniel Cantor, Bob Norp, the one, the only Bob Norp, host of the greatest marketing podcast anywhere, which he wrote, but it's okay. I think it's true. The Beancast. Happy birthday, Bob, previous guest on the show, and also Daron Wesley as well, my Dutch colleague. Hope you are having a good day. And then finally on LinkedIn, we've got Michael Walker, we've got Tammy Holzman, Robert Church, Nina Ebert. Have a great day today. Well, it's time for our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called Once Upon a Time. I see so many comments coming in. You're just going to have to hold those comments until I'm done with this, because I know what you want. I know why you've tuned in. You've tuned in for two reasons. You've tuned in for Andy, obviously, and you've tuned in maybe, just maybe, to get a glimpse of the famous mother. Is there a mother? Who is this mother, this Natalie Jaffe that's always watching? Maybe you will see her and maybe you won't. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Joseph, born on his father's birthday as the ultimate present he became the apple of his parents' eye. Grudgingly, he shared that joy when a sister came into the world 2 years later. 3 years later, with another addition on its way, Joseph went from being a 4-year-old boy to the man of the house when a freak boating accident took his father away at the age of 33. His mother was now a widow, hearing impaired, pregnant, no job. Now she could add father and breadwinner to her already burgeoning LinkedIn profile. Perhaps this is her story as well. Joseph's nursery school teachers had a nickname for him, Old Man. He grew up for the most part fending for himself, not really wanting to be a burden to anyone, especially his mother. At 13, he was hit by an express train. You should see what the train looked like. At 17, the night before finals, he was out playing pool for tequila. You see, he was meant to go traveling, but then he fell off a wall. Long story. He ended up going to college and within 6 months meandered from pharmacy to computer science to finance to marketing. And then it all clicked. Turns out marketing flowed through his veins. He soared. He lost weight. He met a girl. He moved to Johannesburg to work for a chicken company. She moved to the US. He moved to the US. They got married. He worked on Madison Avenue, had kids, got laid off, moved to the burbs, wrote a book, became a speaker, started his own business, wrote 4 more books, started 2 more companies, keynoted in 50 countries, and then the world paused. But he didn't. He became a talk show host. His story is not done. My story is not done, and neither is yours. In recounting my story, there's the part where I say, I don't know why I didn't set out to be the world's greatest virtual speaker like everyone else did. I don't know why I instinctively started a daily live stream, which 249 guests later became what you see right now. Actually, I do. I realized it just now. It's the 4-year-old Joseph who pivoted 46 years ago and has been pivoting ever since. The instinct in question was natural instinct. And I have my guest tonight, Andy Henriquez, to thank for helping me make this powerful connection as part of my personal and unfolding story. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. And now it's time to introduce him to you. And I can see him smiling in the green room. I think maybe because he's been taking notes and he's going to give me some pointers in terms of, Joe, it was good. I liked it. It was interesting. But there are a couple of things maybe you could have done differently. I'm just kidding. Let me tell you about Andy. Andy Henriquez, also known as the Master Storyteller and founder of the Master Storyteller Academy, is a business storytelling coach, keynote speaker, and author of the game-changing book, Show Up for Your Life. A sought-after speaker, Andy has been featured in the Huffington Post, Black Enterprise, Entrepreneur magazine, and has made several national television appearances. Andy trains corporations, non-profit organizations, and entrepreneurs how to unlock the power of story to elevate their brand, build greater connection, and increase revenue. Whether standing on stage and captivating an audience or conducting workshops and trainings, Andy is known for transforming audiences. And when he's not on stage, Andy loves spending time with his wife, Cassandra, and his daughter, Ava Sky. But you know what? No introduction in the world can do justice to Andy. You just have to see him in action.
Out of nowhere, she gets a knock on the door. When my mom opens up the door, the gentleman on the other end, he hands my mom these legal documents. She starts flipping through the pages, and then she realizes that the property is going to foreclosure. She picks up the phone and she calls them up. And she goes, Hello? Oui, this is Marie. Yes, I received the papers in the mail. It says that the property is going to foreclosure. But I don't understand. Every month I pay the landlord on time. Every month I pay him. I don't understand why the property is going to foreclosure. The lady on the line could tell that my mom sincerely did not understand what was going on. She said, Oh, Marie, even though you've been paying the landlord money every single month on time, the landlord has a mortgage. The mortgage is attached to the property. Because of that, the bank has the right to foreclose. And so, ma'am, the property is going to go to foreclosure. And so my mom asked her, do you think that maybe I can go to the foreclosure sale? Whoever buys the property, I will be a good tenant for them. I will stay in the property. I will pay them the rent. Please, do you think that they will let me stay? And you know what the lady told my mom? She said, ma'am, it's not even worth you showing up. Whoever buys that property is not going to want to keep your little restaurant in there. So my mom was devastated. She's like, this is how I take care of my two boys. I got all my life savings into this property. And so about 2 weeks later, my mom says, you know what? I know that sometimes you don't just have to listen to what people tell you. My mom shows up to the foreclosure sale. She's expecting a room full of investors. But to her surprise, there's only two people there. The auctioneer and the representative from the bank. Now, before my mom could realize what's going on, the auctioneer steps up to the podium and says, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the bidding process on 540 West Atlantic Avenue. If you're here to bid on the property, please raise your hand. And so naturally, the representative from the bank is standing over here. She raises her hand. My mom, who had no intentions on bidding on the property, doesn't even know how this thing works. My mom decided to take an act of faith and raise her hand. The auctioneer said, very well, we're going to start the bidding process at $30,000. Can I get a $30,000? The representative from the bank is standing here, says $30,000. My mom's still in the game, no money, $35,000. It gets over here to the bankers, that banker says $36,000. This goes on and on. Now they're in the 40s, now they're in the 50s, now they're in the 60s, now they're in the 70s. It gets over here to the banker, that banker says $76,000. Now, my mom's like, I might as well have some fun. I don't have any money anyway. We must be playing with some Monopoly money. And so my mom, attitude and all, my mom goes, $76,500. The representative from the bank is standing here with a clip pad. She picks up the clip pad and she says nothing. The auctioneer's got to keep the process going. He goes, $76,500 going once, no answer. He goes, $76,500 going twice, no answer. He goes, $76,500 sold to who? My mom, the woman who had no intentions on bidding on the property. And so my mom is excited she won the bid. And then she's like, wait a second, I actually have to have the money?
And I'm not even going to tell you how it ends because you're going to have to go and find out yourself. In the comments is a link to the rest of that video. I would not blame you guys if you went and left the show right now and went and watched it. It's just a big smile on my face. I'm cheering for your mom. What a story, Andy. What an incredible video.
Joseph, man, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm cracking up because, man, they just have to see the ending, and you left us at the cliffhanger. I love it. I love it. I love it. I've so been looking forward to this, man. Been looking forward to spend this time with you and everybody tuning in to this fabulous show, man. And let's have some fun, man.
Well, listen, you are guest number 249. You are within the first 250. No doubt my best guest ever. But you know, Andy, they want to see you, but they also finally want to see Natalie Mama Jaffe. So should we bring her on the show?
Yeah, let's bring her on. I saw her in your stories. I got a little sneak peek today. I saw her in the stories. I was hoping we were going to bring Mom on camera.
Well, we're going to have to. We're going to pivot. We're going to pivot the camera, and there she is. Her debut. Her debut. Come closer.
Wow. She looks wonderful. Mom looks amazing.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go and get some wine. Andy, you're going to interview her for the next. No, I'm kidding. Mom, what do you think? You know, the most amazing thing, Andy, I've got to say, is that she never knew what I did for a living. Like, honestly, marketing and social and this and Clubhouse and who knows. But for the computers, exactly. For the first time over the last 15 months, every day, all the way here at the foot of Africa, she's been watching this show. And all she does at the beginning is type one word, watching.
I love it.
And we're connected. And we've been connected, and now suddenly you get to be on. Okay, Ma, bugger off now. I've got a show today.
I tell you this. Hey, Ma, good to see you. I tell you this, Joseph. It's an absolute. It's a blessing. I'm a mama's boy. The story that Joseph was just playing was about my mom, and I think it's one of the biggest blessings in the world is to just be able to have your mom witness some of the things that you're doing and be able to just show her some love and appreciation. And Joseph, I'm sure it's the same thing for you, man, that you realize how much of a blessing it is to be there with mom. So how cool is it that mom's watching the show and just that simple watching? I know that warms your heart, man.
It does. Well, listen, you can choose to stay here and
or move on. I'm just going to blow a kiss. Did you catch it? Okay.
I'm catching it too.
If only there was a way to temporarily mute her, but I'm just kidding. Well, Ma, go and enjoy and watch the wonderful Andy Henriquez. So Andy, you know the show. You know that the first thing I do with the show is we get to know my guests and my guest's story. We start off with this idea of fun facts, and we send our investigators into the field to find out a little bit about them. For example, here's what we found. We found that you once considered moving to Thailand with your family. And I don't know why you didn't end up moving, because apparently there are statues of you in Thailand. What was it about Thailand that attracted you?
Yeah, I love it. We were, the wife and I, we were talking about, where our next vacation was going to be. And my wife started doing some research, and we're like, we're going to go to Thailand. So we took a trip. We went to Bangkok. We went to Chiang Mai and Phuket. But when I got to Chiang Mai, we were like living amongst the people. And so every morning I would wake up and I would just, throw on a t-shirt, pair of shorts, walk right downstairs, eat from the street market, have some breakfast. Then afterwards, like walk down the street and eat some more, and then wait for the night market and eat some more. And it was just an amazing experience. And in addition to that, they have like the night markets. We visited the animal sanctuaries to go feed the elephants and everything. And I just fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with the people. And this is the crazy thing, right? So day 3, we're there, Joseph, and I called my wife into the room and I'm like, so do you want to just stay here? And she's like, you're just joking, right? I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, let's stay here for like 6 months and so forth. We could do 6 months here, 6 months in the United States. And we literally looked around and we're looking at different condos. We were staying at a condo there and we highly considered it. But when we really factored in the amount of travel time, the time zone difference and everything, we were like, maybe this is not the best time to do this right now. And we happen to be with my 4-year-old daughter as well. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. And I just loved the culture, loved the food, and loved my experience there. So yeah, it's crazy that you found that out, Joseph. That's awesome.
Isn't it amazing? And so we figure a few things. We start to connect the dots, that there is spontaneity, there is serendipity, there is instinct in your life as well. But cooler heads do prevail in the end. But I wonder what the story is behind this particular example. Now, isn't it amazing that we actually caught this? I'm going to show you right now that you purchased some Xbox 360 when they first came out, and then you sold them from the back of your truck, and apparently was still delivering a keynote speech at the same time. And apparently Xbox looks like, I don't know, cigarettes as well. But, there's a lot I don't understand, Andy. But it seems that inside you as well is this incredible entrepreneurial spirit and flair and drive to succeed.
Yes, yes. So Joseph, here's the thing. This is a crazy thing, and I don't ever play video games. I'm not a video game guy. And so one day my brother calls me up, and he's not even a video game guy, but he was a big IBM guy. And he calls me up, or a Microsoft guy, and he calls me up. He's like, Andy, I know you know a lot of people. Is there any way that you could get your hands on an Xbox 360? And I'm like, what's an Xbox 360? He's like, you don't know what that is? It's the new game console created by Microsoft. It's going to be like the next hottest thing out. So I started making some phone calls, and people started telling me, like, this is like a big deal. They're expecting them all to be sold out, and then they're going to be out of inventory, and people are going to be fighting to be able to get their hands on an Xbox 360. So I made some phone calls around. I found a particular company. They're no longer in business, and they said that we are going to have the Xbox 360, but we're only going to have about 25 of them when we launch. So I had a cousin that was in college at the time, and I said, hey, do you think you could find maybe about 20 of your friends who'd be willing to camp out, and I would pay every single one of them $100? So them being college students, he called one friend. They were like, I'm in. They called another friend. They were in. So I ordered pizza. I ordered some snacks, some Coke. They all slept outside, waited for the store to open. The store opened, and each one of them went and grabbed a voucher. And I didn't get 20. I think I ended up getting 17 Xbox 360s. And there was such a demand. I went on the back of my truck. I had a Cadillac truck back then. I put Xbox 360 for sale. And between going from the store and making it to my house and then driving around, I sold out in 2 days. And I sold all those Xbox 360s for twice the amount I paid for them. So it was bananas. It was crazy. But yeah, that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. I don't know if I've done anything that is that cool, but that was a really, really cool experience.
Well, I would probably challenge you on that, because I think the events of the last 15 months, and in particular since the introduction of Clubhouse, have been beyond cool.
Yes,
and
yeah.
You know what? I am torn, to be honest with you, because seeing you in action, in the flesh, as it were, in full sight, sound, emotion, and video, is about as dynamic as it gets. And yet you've been able to also replicate the energy, the enthusiasm, the dynamism, the passion in an audio only or audio first environment. And that is incredible to see someone who can transfer and translate their brand essence with even, across these two completely different channels. Been remarkable.
Thank you. And Joseph, it's funny. There's a lot of times you're in the process of doing something, and then you have no idea what it's going to prepare you for next. So, this is something I share all the time. One of the huge influence in my life is Les Brown, one of the top 5 speakers in the world. For anyone watching this, if you haven't heard of Les Brown, you definitely want to go Google him, look him up on YouTube. And I remember over 14 years ago, when I first joined his highest speaking program called the Platinum Speaker Program, he talked about, I kept saying, well, how do I get better at communication? How do I get better at being able to hold an audience? And he kept saying, Andy, speakers speak. And I was like, okay, it's great. That's why I signed up for your program. Well, what do I need to do like right now? He's like, Andy, speakers speak. And I'm like, okay, I get that, right? But that's why I enrolled in your program. But here's my question for you. Like, what can I do right now to enhance my skills? And he said, speakers speak. And at that time, Joseph, no one knew who I was. I wasn't getting on stages or anything, but he was doing a motivational call every Monday evening. And so I eventually launched my own motivational message call, phone call, teleconference call on a Thursday evening. And so for every Thursday for 13 years, I had to deliver a message holding a telephone with hundreds of people listening, none of which could see me. And so I was learning how to be able to speak in a way where I could hold an audience who did not have the ability to see me. And lo and behold, Many, many years later, this platform called Clubhouse comes out. And here I am once again in this same position where it's like, wait a second, slightly different here, but once again, using your voice, using and still being able to transfer energy, transfer belief without seeing anyone, and doing that completely through your voice. And so I had no idea that those 13 years of doing those teleconference phone calls was going to be preparing me, for Clubhouse, which is crazy.
That's incredible. What would have happened if Les Brown had said to you, speak, Andy, speakers say, and I'm done speaking when they're finished speaking? Or if he said, Andy, speakers mute and unmute their microphone when they want to clap.
Exactly, right?
It's a beautiful story, and if we extrapolate meaning from it, it is the fact that, and I'm sure you've heard this, I'm sure you've even said this often over the last 6 months. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And
Absolutely.
that's what was. And how many of us are self-aware, though, to realize every single thing that happens, good, bad, or ugly, is ultimately making us not who we are, but who we might become one day?
And I look back, Joseph, when you say that, there are so many things that right now that I'm leveraging in my life, and I'm realizing, like, as early as elementary school, those things were working for me, and not just happening to me, but rather happening for me, as Tony Robbins would say. It's interesting, when I was first starting off elementary school in the United States, they decided that they needed to call my parents in, and they wanted to speak to my mom particularly because they felt as if that I was struggling to keep up with the rest of the kids. And so the administration and even the principal had my mom come in. And at that point, I'd only been in school for about 2-3 weeks. And they said, hey, look, your son's in the class. Seems like he's struggling a bit. We're going to have to put him in remedial classes, a special classroom for kids that are having difficulty learning. And my mom says, no, my son, he's a black boy. He's very smart. And then it was mid into the conversation that it dawned on my mom that when they were looking at my documentation, it showed that I was born in the United States. But what they didn't know was that in my household, my mom and father were speaking a different language. My family's originally from Haiti, and so they were speaking Creole. So what happened is, even though I was born in the United States, I was having a language barrier. It wasn't a learning thing. They weren't aware of the fact that English, even though I was born in the US, English was not my primary language because they were primarily speaking Creole in my household. And so my mom pleaded with them and she said, is there anyone here at the school who speaks Creole? And they said, you know what? We actually do have one teacher. Let's call her in. And so they brought her in. And my mom pleaded with her. She says, my son NZ, he's a smart kid. Can you do me a favor? Every time you leave, you take him home, you tutor him. And so that lady, my mom was so compelling when she was speaking to that lady agreed to take me home and tutor me. That lady would become my second mom. Her name is Marie Claire Bouvet. She would become my second mom. And I recall sitting with her every single day, Monday through Friday, as I left elementary school, and we would sit at the table and we would do homework for hours. And anytime that I did something that was inaccurate, she would make me do it again. And if I did it was inaccurate, she'd make me do it again. And when I look back, so many lessons I got. I learned the discipline that I leverage today. Like that speech that you played before, let me tell you, the preparation for that speech, the amount of times that I practiced, it was crazy. I was filming a documentary at the time, and the camera crew came when I was actually doing the walkthrough for that presentation in front of 5,000 empty seats. And in the documentary, they showed me delivering the speech, and then they showed the walkthrough. And they literally showed how I was doing the exact same mannerisms in the walkthrough, the cold run. I was on the same place on the stage. And what they were trying to capture was the amount of preparation. But when I look back, it goes all the way back to that lady back in elementary school. And then this idea too, where you said that, you know, as you know, even on Clubhouse, like when I'm going to do those rooms, like I go all in. This notion of how you do anything is how you do everything, like giving it your all. All of that originated all the way back in elementary school with that one amazing lady who decided to go ahead and pour into my life. So I look and I think about all of these different occurrences that have gone on all through my life. And when I reflect back, all of these things were not happening to me, but rather they were happening for me. And so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that for every single one of us, as we look at our lives right now, that we can literally draw a line, Joseph, of all the things that even prepared you for this amazing Corona TV and the impact that you're making right now through the show.
You know, it's thank you. And it's so funny. I was jotting down this idea that they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I'm thinking like there's something else that's developing here, which is it's not even luck. It's almost success. It is karma is what happens when preparation meets life experiences. You know, it was everything that happened in your past combined with the hard work, the grit, the sweat, you know, the preparation, the 10,000 hours that basically makes us who we are. And I think like what I love about this conversation is the 10,000 hour idea. I got it here, but I didn't get it here. It isn't just about putting in the time. It's putting in the time with purpose and passion that ultimately turns the toil and the hard labor into the fruits of that labor.
Yes. And here's the thing. Oftentimes people will end up seeing the fruit. But what I always tell people is, you know, don't get excited about the fruit. What you want to do is examine the root. Like what's causing the fruit to show up? Like when you see somebody who maybe is exemplifying some of the characteristics, some of the skills, some of the gifts and the things that you want to have, it's easy to look at the fruit and try to model the fruit. But really, ultimately, the thing that you really want to model is the root, the stuff that you don't see, right? The stuff that's happening behind closed doors. So when I get in the presence of really successful people, one of the things that I always try to figure out are even somebody who has a particular skill set that I want to know. Like, you know, I'm not asking those surface level questions about, well, you know, how many cars do you have or what's this and so forth. All that is the fruit. That's the byproduct, right? I want to know, like, what are you doing? What are you doing that we don't see, right? What's your morning routine look like? What are your rituals? What are the things that helped you to sort of develop this skill set, you know? And I think that that's where we really start gaining the traction. And I think that the beautiful thing about your show, Joseph, is that you are bringing people and people get an opportunity to sort of pull the curtain back, like Joseph's pulling the curtain back on all of these different people. And it gives you this opportunity to be able to pick up gems and pick up tactics and pick up skills and techniques and things that you can leverage to completely transform your life. And that's what makes what you're doing here, Joseph, so magical. And then you're doing it in a fun, relaxed setting, which is going to be one of the best ways for people to be able to capture the gems and capture the lessons, which is going to be a more conducive environment than them sitting at a like formal seminar with workbook and pen in hand. They're going to casually listen and then at the same time be catching stuff, right? They said that there are more things that are caught rather than taught. Like you can just be listening into conversations and just be catching all kind of things, as opposed to you really being sitting down at a table, notepad, pen, and trying to make sure that you're learning something. And so I'm excited.
I'm trying to take notes because I'm like, this big smile on my face when you said, like, don't look at the fruit, examine the root. I'm like, yeah, it's gold, Jerry. It's gold. That was awesome. And by the way, look, I want to show you how I can also pull the curtain back. I can literally pull the curtain back.
I see that.
Like that as well. To find it. I was looking at some of the comments, and I feel like I'm almost neglecting our wonderful regulars. Tom Morris said Aristotle. I think Andy is the modern day Aristotle. He said we learn by doing. Anna comments, holy cow, going back to your commitment, your call, 13 years talk about commitment. And then she adds, best show ever. You see, it's not just me, Andy. It's not just me. It's basically, it's everyone. I want to, you say certain things about story, and everyone loves the power of story, but I don't know that people really understand it. It's a word, but you qualify those words so beautifully. One thing you talk about is this idea of unlocking your story. So I would love for you to talk a little bit. What does that mean to unlock your story? What is the unlock process, and why is and why do so many people struggle to actually recognize that the story is there, it just needs to be unlocked?
Yeah, one of my mentors used to say this all the time, right, Joseph? And it's the idea that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So sometimes because you're in such close proximity to your own story, we have a tendency to devalue our story. Or you might be one of those people who is comparing your story to somebody else's story because of the fact that you don't have the story about, being strung out on drugs. You don't have the story of being a double amputee. You don't have the story of, almost having a near life or death experience. And so you look at those stories and you say, well, I had a regular life, and things went pretty well for me. And so I must not have a story. So what I find is that for a lot of people, their story is hidden to them. In other words, they're not even aware of it because, number one, they're too close to it to really value it. Number two, they get caught up in the comparison game. And then the third category that I find is that people have a lot of stories and they're like, well, how do I even know which story I should even leverage or use? And so that's the first thing, right? Is just this level of awareness that, wait a second, don't compare yourself to other people. And if you have a big story, amazing, leverage it. But understand, if you don't have one of those type of stories, it doesn't mean you don't have a story. You still have a story. As a matter of fact, I fall in that category of being one of those people who thought I didn't have a story because I was comparing my story to other people who had these much more heavier, much more significant stories than I did. And I was so busy comparing that I dismissed my own story. So I always like to sort of start off by saying that. So regardless of where you fall listening into this, whether you're a person, you have that crazy story, that big, huge, gigantic story, or if you're a person, you're like, I lived a regular life, I don't think I have a story. I want to let you know, regardless of where you fall in the spectrum, you do have a story. So then that means then it is your responsibility to then figure out how to be able to unlock that story so that you can leverage it and be able to connect with people, right? And so, Joseph, I always have something I always share that just gives people an idea of where to find their story. And if you want, I'll go ahead and share with everybody. Is that cool, Joseph?
Are we talking about the storyteller styles or?
No, I just want to give them a simple framework where they can find their story, right? Because they're tuning in and they're joining us so that we don't have anyone say that I don't have a story. I want to give them just a simple framework right now. Okay.
Are you kidding me? I would say hell yeah.
All right. So here's the thing. I've had the opportunity to facilitate trainings where there were a couple hundred people in the room, a couple thousand people in the room, in a small intimate setting or one-on-one. And normally when I have people look in these three areas, they always find a story, okay? So I want to give you that simple framework. This is because you decided to go ahead and join us for this show. And I'm hoping that you're gonna, pay it forward by making sure that you share this show with somebody. All right. So there's basically 3 places that you want to look specifically when you're trying to find what I like to refer to as your signature story. That is like the main story that you're going to leverage so that you can connect with people, so that you can build rapport. And those 3 areas that you're going to look is just number 1, your significant challenges. Like, what are the significant challenges that you have faced in your life? And chances are, when you go back and you look at those challenges, you are going to find a story. Like when we first opened up the show, Joseph was sharing his story. He shared several challenges. One was a challenge about, his father passing away tragically, right? The other challenge that he talked about was, being at a place where eventually, we found ourselves where things shifted and he had to pretty much be let go from his job and had to figure things out. And then there was a new challenge. The environment that he was in completely shifted and he had to reinvent himself. And we're grateful for it because now we get to be the benefactor of this amazing show. But if you look at your life and you look at your significant challenges, whether they're relationship challenges, financial challenges, health challenges, you are going to find a story. So challenges is one of the first places that we're going to look so that we can find a story. And one of the things that's important to know, no conflict, no story. So like challenges are one of the key components to a great story. The second place that you're going to look is what I like to refer to as a defining moment. A defining moment are the moments in your life that you can look back and you say, that was the moment that the trajectory of my life changed. That's what I call a defining moment, right? Kevin Costner, in one of his movies, he said, when the defining moment comes, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. We all have a defining moment. That was the moment where everything changed, for better or for worse. If you look back at your defining moments, I promise you, you are going to find a story there. And in the third place that I invite you to take a look is what I refer to as any major transitions. So anytime in life that you go to a transition, you were working a corporate job and you became an entrepreneur, there's a story there. You were married, then you got a divorce. There's a story there, right? You are speaking all over the world, and then you decide to go ahead and launch your own television show, right? And you're changing, impacting lives like Joseph did. There's a story there. So any single time that we either look at our challenges, our defining moments, or significant transitions, we will find a story. So one of the things and that's really the first step, is to just first at least identify the story before you ever get any assistance and help in developing it. So yeah, it's hopefully, Joseph, that created some value for the folks listening in.
I love that. And I love it because even that is a story. It is a story that has a journey. You can map that journey. And what you realize is that the straight line equals flatlining, equals you're not alive when everything is just calm and that flat line, right? But the challenges, it's when the line starts to get jagged. It's when the line goes uphill. It's when you have the disconnects. It's when you actually can zoom in and zoom out and see every single moment where that heartbeat skips a beat, where there is something other than just the flat line. And those are the moments to, I guess, lean into and celebrate, uncover, and then amplify.
Yeah. And Joseph, you brought up something. It's this notion of just understanding the importance of like polarity in storytelling. And, perhaps the best visual when somebody says, well, what's polarity? If you think about a battery, there's a negative side of the battery and there's a positive side of the battery. They are really two opposites. Another form of polarity, if I asked you what's the opposite of inhale, it would be the exhale. If I asked you what's the opposite of night, you would say it's day. And when we are thinking about sharing and telling a story, within the story, we want to be able to find polarity. And the reason why is because if your story is that everything starts off great at the beginning, and then everything's great in the middle, and then everything's great at the end, you know what we call that? A very boring story. As a matter of fact, that's not even a story because we need something to happen happen. It's the reason why sometimes you're watching a movie and it starts off and there's this amazing couple and everything looks amazing. And then they purposely bring the camera into the car as they slowly approach the intersection. And you're like, are they going to get an accident? Is something going to happen? Well, even if something doesn't happen, the reason why you start getting a little tense is because you're expecting this is a story. Something needs to happen. It can't just all be roses and sunshine. So we always want to look for a polarity in our stories. So oftentimes, Joseph, when I'm helping somebody to craft a story, I always try to figure out if there's a lot of a peak in the story, then I'm going to say, where's the valley moments? If there's a lot of valley moments in the story, I'm looking for the peaks. And the reason why is because whenever we share a story, we take the audience with us on an experience. And we've got to make sure that there's both peaks and there's also valleys in that experience. There's going to be peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And that is what creates an experience for people. That's what makes them feel great as we are sharing and telling the story, as opposed to what you so well said, Joseph, this flat line. Nobody, right? There's a reason why there's not a roller coaster on the planet that is just a flat line, right? Because no one would get on it. It'd be like, well, what does this thing do? It just goes on a flat line. Like, okay, not interested, right? We want to experience those peaks. We want to experience those valleys. There's a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. Back in the day, he was a mentor to Tony Robbins. He has so many great things he used to say. But in one of his CDs, The Art of Exceptional Living, he would say, take me high and take me low. Just don't leave me where you found me, right? So it's this notion like, take me somewhere, right? But just don't leave me where you found me. And that's the thing when we're sharing stories, we're taking people somewhere, and we most certainly do not want to leave them where we found them.
So I would like to tell people that, when I fly back to the US on Sunday, I will not be looking at any of the movies that are on offer on the video on demand. I will be rewatching this episode because I just can't keep up with this incredible wisdom. Andy, there is what you say, and then there is how you say it. And one of the things that I notice, which I absolutely love, is to know your storyteller style. There is a 1-minute quiz that people can take. And of course, I took the quiz. I had to. So I've taken the quiz. And by the way, all you have to do is go to storytellerquiz.com to find out your style. But now I'm going to put you on the spot. And I'm going to ask you, which one of these 5, if you had to guess, would you say I am?
All right. So I'm going to give context, and then I'm going to take a guess. So far for you, there are 2 that are coming to mind. But just for everybody who's listening, there's basically 5 different natural storytelling styles, right? So regardless if you've done any work around storytelling, you're going to fall in one of these different categories. And each one of the categories has some of its pros, and then it also has some of its cons. In other words, there's some things about that storyteller style that's working for you, and there's some things about that storytelling style that may be working against you. And so when you take the quiz at storytellerquiz.com, it's going to take you nothing more but about a minute and a half. You're going to get a video that tells you what your quiz results are, what your storyteller style is. It's also going to share with you what are the pros of that style and then where there's room for improvement. So here's the thing, Joseph. I got to hear a little bit of your story at the beginning, and hearing some of your track record, it sounds like there's one part of you that really values data, information, the facts, all right? So that makes me want to lean towards the reporter. However, there's another part of you when I look at the beginning clip of this video, and also as I'm having this conversation with you, I sense a lot of warmth, and also the fact that you take the time for all of your guests to really figure out interesting things about them. And also, I remember one of the times I was listening to you on Clubhouse, and then we had a conversation. And in that conversation, you pretty much said, I will be doing my show for the rest of my life. And there's only one kind of person that will make that level of a commitment to do this kind of a show, right? Where you are connecting with both people who you're bringing on the show and then people who are listening on. So it's a toss-up. I'm going to say you're a toss-up between the reporter and the evangelist. And so if I'm going to pick one, all right. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to say evangelist for right now. And just so people know, evangelist is also what I am. Evangelist is heart-centered, that when they are telling something, they want to be able to connect with people. But what's interesting, Joseph, and you'll let me know, I believe that we also both have the capability, and you correct me if I'm wrong, to potentially be the reporter, because I don't know if everyone here knows, I'm formerly a CPA.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause you for 1 second, and I'm going to say to people, you did not know the results in advance, and I have the video of the result, and this is the answer.
Evangelist, the heart-centered storyteller. When you share a story, it is coming directly from your heart. You've got passion, you bring the fire, and when you speak, you make sure that you bring forth all of the emotion, and because of that, you are wonderful at being able to connect with people on an emotional level. Now, here's a stretch goal for you as a heart-centered storyteller. Sometimes you lack a little structure, and so when you're telling your stories, sometimes they can go a little long-winded, and you can find yourself telling a story and you're going on and on
Waffling
and on, and ultimately end up losing your audience. And we don't want that to happen.
Sorry,
so
what?
One of the things that you want to work on as a heart-centered storyteller is we don't want you to lose out on all that passion and emotion that you have, but we want you to have a little more structure when you share your story.
I'm going to stop it right there and say, you nailed it.
Awesome. Now, Joseph, let me tell you why I'm excited. Here's the truth. Here's the reality, right? Just like anything, personality tests, the quiz and so forth, I get plenty of people say, oh my gosh, I took the quiz. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I totally agree. And I get other people, just like a personality test. I took your quiz and I totally disagree. I don't believe that is me and so forth. And the reality of it is we always have some of those characteristics and we may not choose to identify one. So I'm happy. I want to hear your take on this, Joseph. So you do agree? Do you? Okay.
100%. I mean, and I was like, and I was thinking to myself, like, oh crap, what if he gets it wrong? Why did I put him on the spot? And then I was like, no, Andy's gonna get it. There's like, of all the things in there, nothing has the emotion and the heart of the evangelist. And you know what? I've always been the evangelist. I've said this many times. I was once told by a marketing executive, he said, Joe, there are two types of people in the world. There are pioneers and settlers. He said, the pioneers get shot and the settlers take the land. He said, you are a pioneer. And I was like, thanks. But the evangelist is out in front. The evangelist doesn't care about him or herself. The evangelist is trying to be part of the rising tide that floats all boats and often gets drowned by that own rising tide. That's the danger as well. But the evangelist is on a mission. It is Don Quixote. It is, the negatives are there as well. And it's not dissimilar to the whole, Jungian archetypes, that for every strength and, every strength, if not controlled and if not steered and directed, can actually become an Achilles heel. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Everything you said in that video, I was like, nailed it. That's why I love this, man.
Love it. I'm happy to hear that. Now, Joseph, I got to ask you this, because at the very beginning, before the marketing, I heard a couple of previous careers. What were some of those previous careers?
So, I mean, the story from serendipity, from falling off, from falling off walls and etc. But I went through this 6-month spell from pharmacy to computer science to finance, and then marketing. It just hit the creative, strategic side of the business. So the missing part, I worked in marketing at Nando's Chicken Land. In advertising, I moved around, but generally I was in advertising. And even though I moved through different disciplines, I knew now, and I know now, maybe knew then, that the creative and strategic sides were my calling in the business versus media versus, account management. But then I became an entrepreneur, and through the I've always been an evangelist with these books, with these visions, with frameworks, with Embrace Your Heresy, with Flip the Funnel, being able to try and not see things as they are, but see things as they could be and ask why not. That's a quote that is very, very close and near and dear to me. So it's been a little bit of all over the show until, boom, this thing hits. And that's why somebody says to me, who are you and what do you do for a living? My answer is, I'm a talk show host.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I asked you that because especially at the beginning, when I heard like computer science and so forth, a couple of those things was like analytical. And that's why I was leaning a little bit with the reporter, but just seeing you in action and having conversation and so forth, I was like, yeah, nah, he's an evangelist.
And I'll tell you one thing, I always thought that I would do better in math and science, and I always sucked at it relatively. I had to go to And languages was always, writing was always in my DNA at school, and it certainly has carried forward. Now, I wish, I don't think I've ever said before the episode is done, Andy, there's so much more. You got to come back. You don't even need another book to come back. We'll find a way. But there is so much that I want to tell people about you. And I want to make sure that we hit all these things. First and foremost, one thing is that, Andy, I'm going to give you all the links now as well. He is, he is the king of Clubhouse, if I may say so. Every Friday, Andy and friends, I joined 1 week. Actually, it was the week when you went in and out doing your mastermind. But every time you came back, I thought, Don't mess it up, Joseph. Don't mess it up. Say the right thing. Don't be too verbose. Andy is listening. Andy is listening. But every Friday from 1 p.m. until ... you run this incredible room called Cash In on Your Story. And the one thing that just hit me, and I pick up things every single time you ask people, did that give you value? Did that bring you value? Did that deliver? Every person you ask, you don't miss one person. It's all about value. You're not being paid for it. You put hours and hours. So if you are in Clubhouse, first of all, you're going to want to join Andy's club called Cash In on Your Story. And then you're going to want to be a part of this. I don't even know what it is. It's not a room. It's not an experience. It's a beautiful community and a journey. And so that's what I want you guys to do. I also want you, if you are ready to unlock your story, then go ahead and find out more at andyhenriquez.com. There's more. You've got this amazing virtual event, free, right? Which is coming up on May 19th. So tell people about that. And then I got more stuff for you still.
Yeah. So absolutely. So if you want to figure out really how to be able to leverage your story so that you can better connect with people, maybe attract more clients, or maybe just get a little more confidence and clarity, I'm doing a free training. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And all you have to do is head over to cashinonyourstory.com, cashinonyourstory.com, save your spot. You'll get the emails and then you'll be able to join me live. This is a live training. And I'm going to be sharing so many gems on how you can leverage your story so that you can, ultimately be able to attract more customers, more clients, maybe get some more confidence so that you could launch your own show, do your own podcast, maybe finally get your book out, whatever it might be. But this is like the training that people always get super excited when I put together. I put them on periodically. So head over to cashinonyourstory.com and join us.
I think I might be joining you as well, just because, I want to see you live. And look, if I, you know, if I thought that I'd figured it all out, I always say people that say they have all the answers are either lying or fools. I've learned so much from you in the time that we've gotten to know each other. And I've even learned so much about myself today from you. In addition to everything, Andy wrote a book called Show Up for Your Life. And so check out that book. There it is. There it is. And I mean, you should go and there's so many ways to connect. This is one where you should actually buy it. You know, so he's given away too much stuff for free. Buy Show Up for Your Life, 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. I think I have one more thing for you as I tell people that you can join him in the club. You can follow him on Instagram. You can follow him on Twitter. You can buy some Xboxes if he has anything left over his truck. You can meet him and hang out in Thailand if you need to as well. But there's one more thing, Andy. I always come up with a quote. And I found this quote early in the week. It's the first time I found a quote, and I'm like, this quote is actually perfect for another guest as well. And I know one person that's going to love it is Anna Bowman. The quote is, everything you look at can become a fairy tale, and you can get a story from everything you touch. And that was said by Hans Christian Andersen.
Love it, love it, love it.
I love that. I thought of you. I thought of the fact that when you look back on your life, with all the warts, with all the challenges, with all the transitions, with all these moments of truth, they ultimately define you. And good things happen to good people, and you are a good person, Andy. I have loved the fact that I could share this South African visit with my guest this week, with you, and I look forward to continuing this relationship and building this friendship with you.
Joseph, man, thank you so much. And I'm just so grateful that you decided to answer this calling on your life and to, create your own talk show. I think, I just can't wait to just be able to just tune in 10 years from now and just be able to do a count of how many lives you've impacted through your show. And so I'm honored to be here. So glad I had the opportunity to hang out with you and everybody tuning in, like, pay it forward, like share this show, not even just this episode, but share the show overall with as many people as you know, so that we can share this awesome gem and share Joseph with them and all the amazing guests that Joseph brings on. And especially, I saw the lineup for next week. Like, you do not want to miss next week. That's a crazy lineup. It was real cool too. Bob Berg popped into one of our rooms the other day and so forth, and we had an opportunity to chit chat. And I'm such a big fan of his book, The Go Giver. So yeah, man, you're not messing around. I saw Deepak Chopra in one of your videos. I saw another one of my buddies, Bruce Turkel, has been your guest. You're not messing around at all.
Don't you love Bruce? Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah, don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Yeah, and you said it came out in his new. I think you said he had actually put that in his newsletter. So yeah, I've been checking you out, Joseph.
Well, you know what? I felt the warmth. My ears were burning and my heart was yearning. And I just want to say, Andy, this was such fun. And if you've watched the show, you would know that at the end of the show, it's not about what I think about my guest. It's about what Chuck Norris thinks about my guest. And this is what Chuck had to say about you, Andy.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
Thanks, Chuck.
I will see you guys, hopefully PCR test in hand. I will be back on Monday at 9 p.m. for a bit of late night Jaffe. Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone. And Andy, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.